Okay. We are, where are we exactly? We are Lamed Gimel Amud Bet, where it says, Meitive, I believe, towards the top of the Amud. Maybe 6 lines down from the top, it says, Hanach, Meitive.
Exactly.
Yeah, so just the background information, just from last time, just to refresh our memory. So we had a machloket between Rabbi Chia and Bar Kapara. What does Rabbi Shimon hold by Isur Chalal Isur when you have two Isurim come at the same time? So that was basically where we ended off. That Rabbi Chia will tell you that Rabbi Shimon says when you have two Isurim fall at the same time, he says you're chayav both of them, and Isur is Chalal Isur. And Bar Kapara says no. According to Rabbi Shimon, that's not true. When you have two Isurim fall at the same time, you're still only chayav one. Okay, that was machloket, a previous machloket. So now the Gemara says meitivit. The Gemara asks a question against Bar Kapara. It says zar sheshimish b'Shabbat u'baal mum sheshimish b'tuma. So two of the three cases that we mentioned on the previous daf. If you have a zar, somebody who's a non-kohen that did the avodah on Shabbat, or if you have a Baal Mum that brought a Korban Tzibur when he was Tameh, so each of those cases have two Isurim. Yesh kan Mishum Zarut, Umishum Shabbat, Umishum Baal Mum, Umishum Tuma. Each case has both Isurim. The non-Kohen who did the Avodah on Shabbat, he's Chayav for being a Zar who does the Avodah, and he's also Chayav for doing Malacha on Shabbat. And the Baal Mum who brought the Korban Tzibur when he's Tameh is Chayav for bringing a Korban Tzibur when he's Tameh and when he's a Baal Mum. Rabbi Yossi, that's Rabbi Yossi's opinion, that he's Chayav both. Rabbi Shimon Omer, Ein kan ela mishum zarut u Baal Mum. Rabbi Shimon says in these cases he's only Chayav one. So, Bilvad. He's only Chayav for being a Zar or for being a Baal Mum. He's not Chayav both in each case. So the Gemara points out Ve'ilu Milika Shaire. The case of Milika, we had a third case. The case of Milika, that a Zar, someone who's a non-Kohen, eats from the Milika. So over there also there were two Isurim. He's eating something that's not kosher, it's Nevela, because he never got a proper Shchita. And he's also a Zar eating Kochim. Now those two Isurim happen at the same exact time, right? When he does the milika, it becomes nevela and it becomes kochim. Mm-hmm. So leman shaire. So who, for what reason? Meaning, obviously, if it left it out, that means that Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon don't argue in that case, where the isurim happen at the same time. They don't argue. So leman shaire, it left it out to teach me the chidush that they don't argue that according to who? Meaning, who agrees to who over here? In a case where both Isurim happen at the same time, in the case of Milika, that's not brought down that they argue. So it sounds like Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Yossi agree in that case. So who agrees to who? Ilem Rabbi Yossi. If you're going to tell me that Rabbi Yossi agrees to Rabbi Shimon, meaning Rabbi Yossi will tell you that you're chayav one. In a case where you have two Isurim fall at the same time, you're chayav one. That doesn't make sense. Because hashta Rabbi Yossi beisur kolel mechayev shtayim. Beisur bat achat mebaya. Rabbi Yossi says even by an Isur kolel, where you already have one Isur already chal, and then the second one on top of it will be chal because the Isur kolel, he says you're chayav both. In a case where both Isurim are falling at the same time, of course he's going to say they're both chal. Because even if you already have one pre-existing Isur, the second one could be chal on top of it. For sure, if they're both coming at the same time, they're both going to be chal, according to Rabbi Yossi. So, Ela lav lo Rabbi Shimon. So, it must be teaching me that they both agree, meaning that Rabbi Shimon is the one who agrees to Rabbi Yossi. U'v'isur kolel hu depatar, aval be'isur b'vat achat mechayev. But it sounds like, according to Rabbi Shimon, Isur Kolel is where he argues with Rabbi Yossi, and he says, okay, Isur Kolel is not Chal. You're not going to have Isur Chal Isur, but Isur B'vat Achat, when you have two Isurim falling at the same time, you are Chayav on both of them. And that's not like what Bar Kapara said. So we just brought a Braita to prove like Rabbi Chia, not like Bar Kapara, that Rabbi Shimon will tell you that Isur is Chal al Isur when you have two Isurim falling at the same time. So the Gemara says Tiyufta de Bar Kapara Tiyufta. This is a Tiyufta on Bar Kapara. This is a knockout to Bar Kapara. Okay. Now, just going back to the case of Zar that did the Avodah on Shabbat, so says the Gemara, Zar sheshimesh b'Shabbat b'mai. What exactly did he do on Shabbat? Meaning, we're saying a non-Kohen who did the Avodah on Shabbat, so he's chayav for...
Has to be Avodah of Kohen.
Yeah, so the question is, it has to be an Avodah that he does, that we said, according to Rabbi Yossi, he has to bring 2 Korban Chatats. One for violating Shabbat, and one for being a Zar who does the Avodah, a non-Kohen.
The existing Isur.
The existing Isur is, he's a Zar. Yeah, that even if it was Monday or Tuesday, he cannot.
Whatever.
Now, on top of that, Shabbat comes, and Shabbat, since Shabbat is Chal on him because it makes other Melachot Asur, it's also Chal on him regarding this Melacha, and he has to bring 2 Korban Chatats, according to Rabbi Yossi. So the Gemara says, I b'shchita, what exactly did he do? What avodah did he do? I b'shchita, shchita bezar keshera. If we're saying he did shchita, well, there's no isur of zar to do shchita. The zar is kasher to do shchita. V'ik b'kabbalah v'holacha. If the avodah that he did was the kabbalah of the dam, he caught the dam in the kli and he took it to where it needs to be taken. So tiltul ba'almahu, that's not doing any melacha on Shabbat. That's just mukseh. You're moving mukseh. That's not any chiyuv chatat to catch blood and to carry it. That's to carry it from one place of the Beit Hamikdash to the other. Zar is allowed to do the shechita. Yes.
Just for the chatat we give it to Kohen Gadol, yeah? So
no, the Kohen Gadol is responsible for on Yom Kippur. He does everything, but other korbanot, Zar is technically there are technical issues. In certain areas of the Beit Hamikdash he can't go. Yeah. Okay, so that there are ways to work it out.
Kohen or Kohen Gadol do the shechita in the Beit Hamikdash, not anybody.
Not always. The Zar is technically kasher b'shchita, but he was pasul for the other avodas. So if it's just the Kabbalah, the holacha, the carrying. So that's not that's tiltul ba'alma. That's no chiyuv chatat. That's not violating Shabbat on a deoraita even. So ibe haktara if
even besides Shabbat.
No, that he's pasul. Those avodas he's pasul to do. He's pasul to catch the blood and to carry. The only avodah that he's kasher to do is the shchita.
On other days.
On other
What's
days.
the difference between that day and Shabbat?
Okay, so on Shabbat he
you said on Shabbat.
No, we're saying
he's allowed to do it.
Let's get the question. No. We're saying like this. What did he do that he's chayav double? What did he do that he's going to be violating Shabbat and being a zar, doing the avodah?
What kind of avodah did he do on Shabbat?
If he did shchita, well, he's kasher to do that avodah. So that's obviously not the case that he's chayav
even
double.
On Shabbat.
I don't. Let's put that aside. I don't know about Shabbat, but on during the week, mistama even on Shabbat, but it depends on the way. Yeah, probably even on Shabbat. But if he did the Kabbalah and the holacha, so that you're not violating. It's true. He's chayav because zar. He's not allowed to do the avodah, but there's no issue of Shabbat of holacha and Kabbalah. So, iba haktara, if what he did was he did the burning of the parts that need to be burnt, so the Gemara, this is going all in Rabbi Yossi. So va'amar Rabbi Yossi havara lelavi atzta. Rabbi Yossi holds that havara on Shabbat there's no chiyuv chatat, so it can't be that you're chayav chatat.
What's havara on Shabbat?
Havara is burning something on Shabbat, transferring a flame, or burning something on Shabbat. Rabbi Yossi holds that, meaning making the flame on the mizbeach. Rabbi Yossi holds that there's no korban chatat for havara. Rabbi Yossi holds havara lelav yatzta, because we already have all the melachot that are asur, that are already asur. So the pasuk makes a specific mention and says lo tiva'aru esh bechol moshavotechem b'yom haShabbat. So the question is, why did we separate that pasuk? We actually had it earlier in the Masechet. Rabbi Yossi says havara lelav yatzta. It's there just to tell me that it's not included in the other melachot and there's no korban chatat. It's its own thing that's a lav. But either way, so that you wouldn't be chayav two korban chatats. So what malacha is he doing that he's going to be chayav korban chatat for Shabbat and for being a zar, doing the avodah? So Amar Rav Acha bar Yaakov b'shchitat paro shel kohen gadol uchdivrei haomer shchitat paro shel kohen gadol bezar pesula. We're talking about the case is that he's doing shchita of the one that the kohen gadol needs to do on Yom Kippur, the cow of Yom Kippur. That's when he's chayav double for Shabbat and for
whenever that the kohen gadol goes to do the shechita, is not allowed to go. Zor are not allowed to go there.
Right. So going is a different issue. There are ways to work it out, but the Gemara says ihachi ma'ir yazar afilu kohen hediot nami. If that's the case, that's even a kohen hediot cannot do it. So it doesn't have to specifically be a zar. So the Gemara says no. Shazar es lo kamar. Zar means anyone who's not a kohen gadol. Means he's a zar to the kohen gadol. A kohen hediot also is included in zar. So the Gemara is suggesting now that the case is that he did the shchita of the par of the kohen gadol on Yom Kippur, and that's the type of avodah that he's not allowed to do as a zar, and he did that on Shabbat. He's chayav double in that case. So the Gemara says the matkif la Rav Ashi midi chataot katani o lave katani. Rav Ashi says it says anything specifically about korban chatat or lav. Ele isurei ba'alma kachashiv. Rabbi Yossi is just saying, not that he's over two lavin, or he's has to bring two chataot. It has nothing to do with korbanot. It's just he did two isurim. Isur ba'alma kachashiv. Lemay nafka mina. Who cares how many isurim he did? Lekov ro ben rishaim gimurim. Like we had before, that nafka mina is to bury him by rishaim gimurim. So we're coming out that Rabbi Yossi will tell you that even in a regular case, even in a regular case of shchita, forget about shechting of kohen gadol. Regular case of shchita, regular other types of avodas or burning or whatever, that even though it may not be a chiyuv chatat on Shabbat, but he's doing an isur. He's doing an isur Shabbat on top of the isur zar. If he burns he puts the things on the fire, or he puts fire on the mizbech. Okay, next Mishnah. Shnayim shekidshu shtei nashim uvshat kenisatan lechupa hechelifu et shel zeh lezeh ve'et shel zeh lezeh. So two people were mekadesh two ladies.
Same time.
Okay, it doesn't matter. Yeah, one after the other. It doesn't matter. Two people. Well, actually, we'll get to the same time later in the Gemara. Two people were mekadesh two ladies, and when it came time for chuppah, so they got mixed up. They went to the wrong person. Yeah, each one went to the wrong person. So you have Reuven and Shimon, where Reuven. Yeah, that's so Reuven was mekadesh Rachel, and Shimon was mekadesh Leah. And then when it came time for chuppah, they switched. So they ended up being together. They ended up having bia. Each one ended up having bia with eshet ish, with the other guy's wife. So, hare elu chayavin mishum eshet ish. They're both chayav eshet ish. Ve'im hayu achin. Now, if these two people were brothers also, so mishum eshet ach. In addition to eshet ish, they're also chayav eshet ach. They're also chayav for each one for their brother's wife. Vim hayu achayot, and if these two girls were sisters, so you had two brothers marrying two sisters, and they switched. So not only is it chayav eshet ish, not only is it chayav eshet ach, but also mishum achot mishum isha lachota. Also achot isha, it's his sister's wife. His wife's sister. So it's his brother's wife, his wife's sister, and she's also Eshet Ish. He's chayav all three. V'im hayu nidot, and if they both were nida, mishum nida, he's chayav also nida. So you could be chayav 4 isurim in this case. Each person, both men and both ladies, are going to be chayav 4 isurim. Eshet ish, eshet ach, achot isha, nida. If you have 2 brothers, married 2 sisters, they both did kiddushin to 2 sisters, and then they switched. The brother number 1 went to sister number 2, and brother number 2 went to sister number 1, and they switched. So each one is chayav 4 things. If she's right, it's eshet ish, eshet ach, achot isha, and if she's nida, also nida. Okay. Umafrishin otan 3 chodashim shema meubaroten, and they have to separate from their husband for 3 months to make sure that they didn't become pregnant from this bia, because the child would be a mamzer. But if they were ketanot before the age where it's possible for them to have children, so machzirim otam miyad, they can go back to their husband right away. They don't have to wait 3 months because they're not pregnant. So if the ladies were ketanot, they were too young to have children, so they don't have to wait 3 months to make sure they're not pregnant before they go back to their husband. They could just go back to their husband.
To the original husband.
To the original husband, to the one who was mikadesh them, yeah.
The husband could take them back?
So
by Allah cannot.
Why not?
If somebody's wife cheat.
Yeah.
Yes, the husband has to divorce her. Yeah.
Right. So this is it's, you see very clearly that this is a case of ones. This isn't a case that they on purpose did this. It was ones that it got mixed up. So by ones, he's allowed to be back with his wife if she was ones, only if it was on purpose. Okay. Vim hayu kohanot nifsilu min truma. Right. If they were kohanot, then they cannot eat truma anymore, because a kohen even be'ones, she loses her status of eating truma, and she has a kohen cannot be with his wife even if it was ones. Okay, hechlifu. So the Gemara said it sounds like from the word hechlifu, it sounds like at first glance that they purposely switched the wives. So the Gemara says hechlifu, what, they purposely switched the wives? Midibir Shiyeh askinan? What we're dealing with Rishaim over here, that they're gonna switch their wives? Vetu, and even more than that.
Each other like the other one.
Vetu, hadetani Rabbi Chia, harekan 16 chataot, ibe mezid miika korban, and also Rabbi Chia taught that in this case you have 16 korban chatats, 4 for each person. Eshet ish, eshet ach, nida, and achot isha.
If a man and a husband,
yeah. So for the 2 brothers, right? So 2 brothers, 2 wives. Each one is bringing 4. You have 16. So, but that's only if it's shogeg. You bring a korban chatat. You don't bring a korban chatat if a mezid. So you're telling me they switched. It sounds like they did it on purpose. The word huchlefu, hechelifu, sounds like they on purpose they switched.
They changed it, yeah.
Right, but it can't be, because number 1, we're dealing with Rishaim that do something like this, and number 2, then there wouldn't be any korban chatat. So Amar Rav Yehuda, Tani huchlefu. Rabbi Yehuda says no. You should learn it as huchlefu, not hechelifu. Huchlefu. Huchlefu means they became switched. Not that they on purpose switched, but it was a mistake and they became switched. Hachinami mistabra, and the Gemara says it makes sense that this is the case, because diktani seifa imayu ktanot she'enan ruyod leilid machzirin otan miyad. Because we said that if they're ketanot, if they cannot have children, they don't need to wait 3 months. They go straight back to their husband. So v'be mezid misharia. If it was mezid, she's not allowed to go back to her husband. So it must be that it wasn't mezid, right? If she on purpose went with somebody else, she's not allowed to go back to her husband. So the Gemara says, well, by a ktana, that's not such a question. Halo kasha. Pitui ktana ones ninhu. There's a rule that pitui ktana ones. A katana doesn't have dat, And right, V'ones B'Yisrael Mishra Shari. A Ktana doesn't have dat, so therefore, if somebody convinces a Ktana to be with them outside of her marriage, meaning, let's say a regular case, someone did Kiddushin to a Ktana, and another man comes and he coerces her and convinces her to be with him, so that's considered ones, because she doesn't have dat to understand exactly what she's doing.
But if the husband is Kohen, the Ketana cannot back to the...
Correct. Because ones by a Kohen is not allowed. But ones by Yisrael, she's allowed to be back to her husband. So Ella diktani. So the Gemara says, okay, but still I have a proof that it makes sense that this case is ones. Why? Ella diktani mafrishin otan shlosha chodashim shema meubaroten. We teach that you have to separate them from their husbands for 3 months if they're not a ketana. If they're an adult, you have to separate them from their husbands for 3 months to make sure that they're not pregnant from the first bia. So, halav meubarot sharinan. It sounds like, if you find out that they're not pregnant, after the 3 months, okay, so then they're allowed to go back to their husbands. Because it says it doesn't say they have to divorce their husband. It says you separate them from their husband for 3 months. And then after those 3 months, it sounds like they're allowed to go back to their husband. So, halav meubarot sharinan. If once we find out that they're not pregnant, they're allowed to go back to their husband. Now, ve'i b'mezid mishari. If what they did was b'mezid, they purposely switched. So mishari, is that allowed to go back to their husband? So el alav shma mina huchlefu shma mina. So the Gemara says, you're right, shma mina. We see that really it's huchlefu, not that hechelifu, they did it on purpose, but huchlefu, it became switched, nothing on purpose. Okay, let's go a little bit further. So, Uman Tana de'idle isur kolel ve'isur mosif ve'isur bevat achat. So, who's our Tana that holds this? Meaning, the case was 2 brothers married 2 sisters, and they each had bia with the wrong sister. So each one, we said, did 4 isurim: eshet ish, eshet ach, achot isha, and nida. So it means that whoever wrote this Mishnah holds that isur could go on another isur by isur kolel, isur mosif, and isur bevat achat. So who is this? Now, just explaining in our Mishnah, how do you have all of these isurim? So first, one of the brothers, the first brother, Reuven, married the first girl. So at that point, you have 2 isurim chal at the same time: eshet ish and eshet ach. Right? Those 2 isurim are chal at the same time. That's isur bevat achat. Then you have the other brother marries the sister. So now it's chal achot isha, his wife's sister, and that's in isur kolel, because since all other sisters become the isur of achot isha is chal on all of his wife's sisters, it's chal on this lady too. And then she becomes nida. So once she becomes nida, she becomes asura on her husband. Since nida is chal on her for her husband, it's chal on her for everybody else also. So those are isur. That's isur mosif. So you have isur bevat achat, isur kolel, isur mosif. So who holds of all of these? So Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav Rebbe Meir. Rav Yehuda Amar Rav says it's Rebbe Meir. Rebbe Meir is the one who holds of all of these. Titania. Yesh ochel achila achat v'chayav aleha arba chataot. You can have somebody who eats 1 kezait. He just does 1 achila. He eats 1 kezait and he's chayav 4 korban chatats. He did 4 isurim that are karet. 4 korban chatats from 1 kezait. So how? So v'asham echad and 1 asham. Huh? Okay, good. So
I'm figuring out which one is.
Okay, so let's see. It's gonna be tough to figure out. So you have 4 chataot and 1 asham. So the case is tameh. First of all, he was tameh. She'achal chelev. He ate chelev. That's number 2. V'u notar mina mukdashin, and it's notar. It was left over from the korban at the time that it's now asur, needs to be burnt. So that's 3. B'yom HaKippurim, on Yom Kippur. That's 4. And Rabbi Meir Omer, im haita Shabbat v'hotziu befiv chayav. And Rabbi Meir says that if it was Shabbat,
What do you mean it was Tommy?
the guy was tameh. The person who was eating it was
Is
tameh.
always a Kohen.
Yeah, a kohen.
A Kohen.
Yeah, so kohen, he's not allowed to eat kochim when he's tameh. So he's tameh. He ate the chelev. It was notar, and it was Yom Kippur. And Rabbi Meir says if it's Shabbat, and he while he was eating it, he was walking outside, so he's chayav for hotza'ah, for carrying, for Rabbi Meir imaita Shabbat ve'otziu befiv chayav. He's chayav for that also. So Amru lo Chachamim said to him eno min Hashem. That's a different. That's not part of the same. That's a different isur. That's a completely different thing. That's not part of what we're talking about. That's a different thing of hotza'ah. Okay, so how do you have these five? How do you have what are all these isurim, and how do you have isur chal isur over here? So you have first it's chelev, right?
So first it was Tommy.
Okay, I mean the animal, the chelev is asur from the beginning. Yeah, chelev is chelev. Okay, so once it's chelev, that's the first isur. Then it became hekdesh. So once the animal became hekdesh, now that's where the asham comes in. You have asham meilot. Once the animal became hekdesh, then the animal became notar. So once it became notar, that's an isur mosif because it makes it asur for the mizbeach also. Meaning beforehand the animal was, when it was chelev, it was just asur to eat.
Chelev you burn it.
Yeah, but it was asur to eat, but it was not asur to go on the mizbeach. Comes isur notar, and now it makes it asur to go on the mizbeach. So that's isur mosif. Then the guy becomes tameh. Once the guy becomes tameh, so since the tuma is chal on him for other korbanot, it's chal on him for this also. So that's isur kolel. It's chal also. Then Yom Kippur comes, and since Yom Kippur makes it asur on all the foods, so it's chal on this also, the isur of Yom Kippur. So that's
Shabbat.
That's 5, and then Shabbat is chal together with Yom Kippur. They're chal at the same time, so that's isur batachat. They're both chal at the same time. So you see, Rabbi Meir holds of all of these. Okay, I guess we'll stop here. Don't want to go too far ahead, so I guess we will stop here.
Nobody can.
These